Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today is something slightly different. I've done PC builds and components in the past, but it's not really been my forte. So I'm upgrading my PC. I bought a new motherboard and a processor to go with what I've already got in my current setup. And this is the ASUS ROG Maximus XII Hero, the Wi-Fi edition. This is a beast. I'm basically going to show you how I'm installing the CPU, the RAM that I have, and I have two M.2 SSD sticks to put in there as well, so you can see me do that, and a basic flyover the actual board itself. Now the processor going with it is the 10th gen Core i9-10900. It's not the 10900K, which is slightly more expensive. It's the LGA 1200 socket, so it's the latest 10th gen. They go hand in hand together. Now I'm editing most of my footage in 4K. Beefier PC would help, and I do the occasional bit of gaming as well. So I'm going to jump into the first bit of hardware and I'm going to install the RAM nice and easy. It's got 4 slots here. I'm going to put in slot A1 and B1, so it's in the dual memory architecture. So for this I'll be using 32 gigabytes of RAM, and I'll have 2 sticks, two 16 gigabyte sticks, Corsair Vengeance LPX 3200 clock speed. Open up the clip on the DIMM ports and just gently push them into here, the click. So next up is installing the CPU. Now, the CPU obviously comes with a heatsink as well, so you don't need to worry about buying a separate heatsink for it. You need to lift up this metal lever on the socket on the Intel motherboard. Take off that plastic protector as well. You have to be very, very careful of the pins on this socket. If you bend any pins, you're going to have serious trouble. They can be bent back, but they can be very, very awkward, so do not bend the pins. Once you're happy with that, you get the CPU out, and you'll have a couple of little notches on each side of the CPU. You need to match that up with the notches in the socket. Once you're happy you've got that, place it in very, very gently until it just sits in there nicely. Then you can pull that cover down. Make sure it slots just under that big screw, and then pull down the lever hard. Don't worry, it might feel like you're pulling too hard, but press down, then hook it underneath that little hook, and then that should be securely fitted. So now you need to install the heatsink. So the heatsink already has a thermal paste, so you don't need to worry about that. You also need to make sure you position it in a way the CPU fan cable can connect to the actual port on the motherboard easy enough, and it's not stretching the cable. You have 4 legs on the heatsink. Just marry them 4 legs up on the holes on the motherboard. Gently position that over, and then in each diagonal corner firmly press one leg into the hole, come diagonal into another hole, and so on until you hear them satisfying clicks. Once you're happy with that, you just need to connect the fan to the motherboard. Now there are 3 M.2 slots. 2 of them are being covered, and then one's being covered separately. I'm going to uncover the 2 because I've got 2 to install. But first we've got to take these heatsinks off. Now, it wasn't until I was halfway through that I realised I didn't have to really remove all the screws completely from those heatsinks. So once you're there, you can see now we have both M.2 slots exposed. The first M.2 SSD is the Intel 660p, 512 gigabytes of storage. Carefully slot that into the port, and then once it's in, you'll see it's sort of sticking up, and it's like a little springboard that you can press up and down on it. You then need to keep your finger down on that, get a small screw and secure the SSD to the mount. Now in some of the slots there won't be any mounts on the actual board. You do get a couple of spare mounts on here, so you need to make sure you put that on there before you put the M.2 SSD on there. So the next M.2 SSD is the XPG SX8200 Pro. This is 1 TB of storage, and again exactly the same. Slowly slot it into the slot. Again, it'll be sticking up. Put your finger on top and then just screw that into the mount. So you now have 2 SSDs firmly installed. We now need to put the heatsinks back on, and if you turn the heatsinks over, you will see there are a couple of stickers you need to remove before placing it back onto the SSDs. This will help dissipate heat from the SSDs when they get really hot, so make sure you do peel them bits off first. Peel them off, put the heatsinks back on, and then we're pretty much done. I'm going to show you putting the motherboard in the case. This is probably about 10 years old now. This is a full ATX case. The motherboard is ATX as well. I've got my golden feet. Make sure they're screwed in tight as well. These separate the motherboard from the actual chassis, which you need to make sure these are installed in all the available holes depending on what size board you have. These are set out for ATX boards. And if you want to route any cables at the back, I mean you can do while you're doing this if you want to, but some cases the other side comes off as well anyway, so you can route them through there. But I like to route these at the back of the motherboard. Okay, let's get the board in. So as you can see, this has already got the input-output shield already built into this motherboard, so that's great, we don't need to worry about that. We just need to line it up, gently drop it in. Don't literally drop it in, but gently place it into the case, lining up the holes on the motherboard to the golden feet. Okay, so that's good, the holes are lined up there. Okay, look, so we're in. The holes have lined up with the little pegs in the case, and it's just a case it's just a case of screwing these in. This adapter here at the end, which comes with the motherboard, is very handy, as the front panel switches plug straight into that, and then you can put it straight into the board. And the last thing I'm going to show you, a pretty important component to put on the motherboard, is the graphics card. So this is the RTX 2060, have the teeth there, just got to marry it up to the PCI Express port. You just put a gentle bit of force on there and you should hear that click. So that's all the main components on the ASUS ROG motherboard. So that's pretty much it, guys. I've showed you how to install a few components onto this monster of a motherboard and also placing the motherboard into like an ATX PC. Pretty simple when you know how. I hope this video has been helpful. Just make sure you buy all the compatible parts. Obviously this is 10th generation now, so obviously won't fit some of the older processors. All links to the products I've used today will be in the description below if you want to take a look or purchase any of them. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.